The first ever Super EZA LR. But how should you build his hidden potential? How's it, everybody? Celtic Link here. We're back for another Dokkan battle video. In today's video, we are taking a look at the LR Prime battle Super Saiyan Goku and his Super EZA, and trying to figure out what might be the best hidden potential for him. So let's waste no time. Let's hop right on in. So now that he is Super Easy Aid, he now has a super class lead of Key 4 and HP attack defense 90% with an extreme class lead of Key 3, HP attack at 70%. Now you're probably not using this guy for lead other than anything outside of Battlefield, and even then probably not using him. There are better options. On his super attack effect, he is raising allies attack by 30% and also has a chance from a critical hit 10% for the turn. So there's no SA effect on his own other than buffing his allies. And then on his 12 key, he is greatly raising attack and defense. So if you need the extra attack and defense on him for a turn, you would go for the 12 key. But if you want to buff your allies, you want to go for the 18 key. So that was all pretty standard. That was things he was doing before. Now that he's Super Easy Aid, he has a lot of stuff that could actually make him kind of good, right? He's got attack and defense 159%. He has Key 3 and an additional 159% defense with a 70% chance of guarding attacks as the first or second attacker. He also gets Key 3 and an additional 159% attack with a 70% chance of launching an additional super as the second or third attacker. He also gets an additional 159 attack and defense when performing the 18 key. He also gets all allies Key 3 and attack and defense 30%, and he also gives effective against all types when attacking superclass enemies and critical hit when attacking extreme class. So he's kind of doing, it's a little bit of what he was doing before, plus a little bit, just enough extra to make him somewhat viable for free-to-play units. He's probably at his best in the second slot, run with a good first slot supporting unit, right? Like the trio would be an excellent slot 1 unit for him for most events, giving him a lot of extra attack and defense that would support him. Otherwise, just having 2 floating trio units and a decent slot 1 unit for him would work as well. So knowing all of that, what he's doing, what is the best hidden potential for this guy? Because, this is one of those where you could grind out his potential, but it is a bit of a task considering he is a prime battle LR, and you don't always want to necessarily waste keys on or not keys, but hourglasses reversing prime battle units. So you kind of you do want to make sure that you get it right the first time. But if not, right, you could always change it up if you have the extra stones and whatnot to grab the keys. So let's go ahead and let's talk about what he's doing. So given everything that he's doing with the additional support on his 18 key and the 12 key being what he uses to get his additional attack and defense, I'm honestly going to say, looking at his defense numbers, right? Like I pull up his defense numbers here real quick. If we go over here to Halvard's Twitter page, so shout out to him for calculating this out, right? His defense numbers, right, without the trio, put him at 1.6 million, right? Assuming he gets a second additional after his, after his first, put him at 1.6 million, which will tank just about every single normal in the game and most supers. Factor in guard after that, he's tanking most supers. So that is pretty darn good, right? Like outside of the new Janemba and Gogeta stage, he's going to survive quite a few supers if his guard procs, right? Like, that's kind of the trick there. Now, if you factor in double trio support and any other 40% support you may have on a team, right? Because let's be real, if you're using this guy, it's probably on the trios team. He can be around 2.4 million defense, if everything goes well. He gets his guard and his additional 18 key. or additional 12 key rather. So that is honestly pretty darn good for a free-to-play unit. 2.4 million defense with possibility of a 70% chance to guard, right? Like, if he guards, he's tanking everything. If he doesn't, he's tanking pretty much everything except the 2 newest supers. So, I mean, I think that that's more than good enough for a free-to-play unit. But as you can see, it is contingent on that additional attack. So there's 2 ways you can go about this, right? So the first possibility I would say is like, number one, I don't think he needs crit, right? I haven't seen his damage numbers, but as a free-to-play unit, he's probably not going to be your biggest damage dealer. And, you know, he does have effective against all types and crit depending on who you're facing. So you don't really need the critical hit. So I would recommend probably as going full additional attack. Now, as a tech type, you can get a max of 15, which would give him 30%. If you go full additional orbs, we're talking a max of 40% extra chance to do an additional attack. Now, note, the 2.4 million defense is assuming he has defense equips attached. Now, we don't know if he's going to get special equips. He might, being that he's the first Prime Battle LR. There might be an event that or missions that give him special equips that might prioritize defense. They usually do, but we don't know yet. Otherwise, you know, you may be kind of seeing lower defensive numbers out of him given that, but even with that, I would still say probably go additional attack and then sub dodge, right? Getting yourself at around 11 or so dodge. I think that's probably the best way to go. If you have any dodge, additional attack, skill orbs, that's probably the way to go. The other option is to reverse it. Go full dodge, right? Get yourself 15% up to 25% if you invest the orbs into him, and then go additional attack, right? With a sub additional attack, that's that's going to be, since he is a tech type, right, he's going to be looking around 11 or so. So, you know, if you upped it with his skill orbs, then you would be at about 21, so 40%. So not that bad. I mean, it could be much worse. So honestly, it's definitely worth it to go that way. Or I'm sorry, not 40%, 20%. So it's definitely worth it there. So either build, I think, works for him. It just depends on if you want to risk the dodge or risk the additional attack. Your chances are going to be relatively the same, being that he is a tech type. So just throwing that out there, I wanted to make sure I give the best advice possible for this build. And if it doesn't work, since he's a free-to-play, you could always go back and adjust it to what fits your needs best, right? This might all change if he gets special equips that, say, give him 8 dodge and 8 defense, right? That might change your build entirely. So just throwing that out there. So guys, that is it for the video. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And in the comments down below, let us know, what build would you recommend for LR Super Saiyan Goku and his Super EZA? What build do you plan on going with? Do you have to make any adjustments? Let us know in the comments down below. Otherwise, guys, as always, thanks for watching, and aloha.